Hey everyone. In this video, I want to speak a bit about participation in the context of policy. As background, for much of the 20th century, there was a strong belief in this idea of bureaucratic rationalism. So we had politicians that were in charge of governing, and we had bureaucrats that were in charge of implementing. And the idea was that modern society had gotten so complex, it required trained expertise to perform those functions. And there was a great faith in objective science combined with the expertise of politicians and bureaucrats to solve the challenges we faced. Um, and this approach, which is very much an expert-driven approach, works fairly well in the context of technical challenges where there is a shared understanding of the issue and a relatively clear solution that can be implemented. But as the 20th century wore on, it became clear that many of the social environmental issues that society were facing were persistent and that progress wasn't being made on many of those issues. I want to share some slides here. These kinds of issues are sometimes called wicked problems, sometimes they're called adaptive challenges, and there's a few characteristics of these sorts of problems that I want to share out with you. First, there isn't a clear solution that is readily implementable, and there might not even be a clear definition of the problem, or there might be conflicting views of what the source of the issue might be. As part of that, there might be multiple causes that are contributing to this. It's not a static issue, it's a dynamic issue that changes over time. Usually, the symptoms of the issue might be increasing in severity over time. Our interventions into wicked problems often produce unforeseen consequences as a result that perpetuate new problems. Wicked problems are often socially complex and involve changing behavior as part of that solution. And wicked problems typically don't fall within any one agency or regulatory body, making coordination essential and making addressing the problem all the more complex. So examples of wicked problems would include climate change. We could think about sustainability more broadly, or biodiversity conservation. We can think about more explicitly social issues like drug addiction or poverty. And I'd argue that the majority of issues we have been considering in the course fall within this wicked problems bucket, and that's why they are so challenging and deserving of our attention. Um, there's been an increasing recognition of the importance of culture and value in the success or failure of a policy, which is coming out of some of these characteristics here in wicked problems. Right, there's a recognition that experts have a relatively limited view of the issue or symptom, and they're bringing in more diverse perspectives can help us better understand the problem, help us better find solutions, and navigate the social complexity that's inherent in addressing that issue. So for an example, if we were thinking about deer hunting in an area and we wanted to take some management steps, we might want to include hunters, local residents, conservation organizations, folks from industries that support hunters, folks from Fish and Game, state, national forests, scientists, bring together all those folks to contribute to our understanding of the issue and our path forward. There's a few potential benefits for including diverse participation like this that I want to share with you. One is having folks from all these different perspectives can increase our understanding of the system from diverse perspectives. And through that, increase our capacity to generate systematic solutions that we might not have been able to see from one vantage point. A big piece of this kind of expertise that folks can bring in is this knowledge from lived experience that they might have in relationship to various issues. It's a kind of frontline knowledge about the issue and its causes and implications that folks removed from that issue in an expert role might not see. Let's see. In addition, this kind of diverse expertise can help increase our sensitivity to the dynamics that culture and values might play in there that experts might fail to take into account. So we can come up with solutions that are better aligned with local culture and values. We also have more buy-in among the participants for implementation in the policy, which is critical. And we can see that social learning takes place as folks from different perspectives have a chance to hear from each other. And we can see an increase in what's often called social capital, communication pathways, trust, and cohesion in the community can be increased through processes like this. And so we can see evidence of this shift toward greater participation in a lot of approaches to environmental work. This is the Rio Declaration in 1992, where Principle 10 contributed that environmental issues are best handled with the participation of all concerned citizens. And so this participation can take a lot of shapes: listening sessions, panels, advisory boards, co-management. I want to share a typology of participation with you as we think about it. This is Arnstein's ladder is kind of a famous categorization of kinds of participation from back in 1969, but still pretty useful. So at the bottom, we have non-participation. We move up into increasing gradients of participation or degrees of participation as we move up. At the very bottom, again, we have manipulation and therapy that are considered non-participation, just trying to get people to go along with an existing plan. Moving up a little bit, we have informing as a step toward more participation, where we're sharing information about the planning and decisions, but still no real opportunity for input. Then we have consultation, which is collecting input to inform the decisions, but it might or might not have any impact on the actual decisions. Above that, we see placation, where there is some representation in the process and maybe some influence over decision-making, but it's without any real authority, just enough to placate people in that situation to keep them from raising any more serious objections. And then we move into more authentic participation in terms of partnership, delegated power, and community control, where the participants have an actual seat at the table, an actual ability to affect decisions that come out of a process and to affect the direction of a process itself. So as we look at policy examples going forward, I'd encourage you to keep an eye on who's included and the degree of participation that they have and who might be excluded in the process. One additional aspect to consider as we think about these various participatory categorizations is the relative power dynamics among folks included in a participatory process. So there has been research that convincingly shows that any existing hierarchies within a community reappear in participatory processes in a way that those participatory processes end up favoring people who are already have the most power in the community. So this is problematic for a couple of reasons. First, it's going to reinforce and exacerbate existing inequality in that community if it's not attended to. And second, it's the decisions and worldview of the people in charge that have gotten us into many of the current situations we face. So unless we address the power dynamics at play, we're likely to continue down a similar path. Participation isn't going to generate any real novel approaches. And so my belief is that the perspectives and values of folks who have been historically marginalized in all of these different decision-making processes are the ones that can offer us compelling additions or alternatives to the dominant ideologies that are driving the problematic system dynamics that we find ourselves in the middle of right now. And so it's particularly important as we think about authentically incorporating community participation to think about what can be done to make it inclusive and equitable so that folks who might be in marginalized positions in the context of that decision-making process really have a chance to share their voices in it. And this isn't to say that all processes need to be fully collaborative, fully participatory. In some cases, consultation may be appropriate. And in some technical challenges in particular, they don't really require much participation. But I'd offer that the pendulum has swung really far toward an expert-driven top-down approach, and that has left us mired in many of these challenges we're facing. So I think as practitioners, we have to be intentional about including participation and collaboration where it may not be the norm, but it could be helpful. And so, I'm aware that all of you are going to be walking out of Antioch with graduate degrees before too long. And so you're going to be the experts in so many situations. And there might be a temptation to have too much faith in your own expertise and the expertise of your fellows and seek to create positive change in some isolation, especially as that is the general inertia and momentum of the way these systems are created. And that isn't to say that there isn't much value in your expertise. There certainly is, and you can play an essential role in the change process. But I'd encourage you to consider how you can bring others in to collaborate with you to inform your work or research, especially folks who might not traditionally have an ability to impact those decisions or connect with folks in positions of expertise as you will have. So how can you design participatory engagement connected to your work and your efforts that can be inclusive and equitable despite pre-existing power dynamics and assumptions about reliance on an expert-driven top-down approach? We'll continue to explore the role of participation and how it might be used as an intervention point as we go forward. Thanks, everybody.